Hello, we are live, and I'm excited to welcome Jeffrey DeSocio today for episode number 19. We are very excited. We're almost at episode 20, but episode 19, which is called "Be a Master Connector: The Art of Networking in Greater Boston." Jeffrey is an executive recruiter with broad reach. He is the founder of the Mass Professional Networking, and he is a board member of the American Marketing Association of Boston. And with that, I would like to pass it over to you to share with us what's one cool networking event you've been to recently.
Well, of course, my events, Mass Professional Networking. We had some really cool events to start off the year, but Boston has a wealth of events, and one event that I always recommend that I love going to is Venture Cafe Cambridge, which is at the CIC building in Cambridge. They have them every Thursday. They have Thursday gatherings that happen, and not only is it an opportunity to network with a lot of smart people. I mean, you're in the middle of Kendall Square, right? The epicenter, the brains, and but there's always a great topic. Like last week, the topic was Canadian entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurs from Canada, a lot of companies are doing their pitches there. So it's always a topic. It's very regional. There's venture cafes across the world, but Cambridge is the epicenter, and I love that event.
Yeah, that is I've definitely been there. I've been there with Amelia.
Yes. I love Venture Cafe too. It's a great place. And I always meet good people.
Yeah. And so it's a great walk of, everything from founders to students to, I would say gray hair people like me that have built, they've done it for a while, and I love going there. I look forward to it.
So before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about, so I gave a whole bunch of things that you do, but I don't know, you may want to pick one or you want to share all of them, but tell us a little bit about what your business is and what your connection is to networking.
So I started, this is a really quick story. So, like I said, I was a tech executive for a while, and long story short, I started going to the networking events about 2007 at Northeastern University, which I'm alma mater. Too bad they're not in the Beanpot final tonight, but hey, they're in the consolidation game. And then, overall, over the years, I eventually said, I want to start my own group. And I started Mass Professional Networking in 2013.
Oh, wow.
I've been running events for about 12 years now, pretty much every month, Greater Boston. We've expanded to Rhode Island. We've expanded out west. I even have a group down in Florida now, but I don't do much with that. I have other people that run that. And then how does that work with my day job as an executive recruiter? I have this network. I've been building this network. I was hiring manager for many years, and kind of married together, right? I'm helping hiring managers find the right people, just as Taylor probably knows, right? And that's how it kind of came together over the few years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, so it's interesting how, so was that why you started the networking group? Was it because of the recruiting, or was?
Oh, no, it was because I started the group back in 2013, and I have my own business. I have a marketing business called AIMC Business Solutions, helping small business owners with their marketing websites and all that. Still do that. And it was an opportunity for me to help others to be out there with my products and services. I don't want to say, hey, Bill, I'm building a sales funnel for my business. It's more like helping others and connecting others. And I had a passion for that. I started the group for that passion of being a connector. I even brand myself. My last name's DeSocio, DeSocial Connector.
That's awesome.
That's genius. Marketer, right? You can tell.
Yeah, you gotta be a brander sometimes, right? So I have a blog, DeSocialConnector.com, which I have a lot of my marketing tips and blogs there. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm a health and wellness nut, so I have a lot of stuff about health and wellness there because I was a former fitness trainer for many years. I competed when I was very, very young. Obviously, my 50s, I'm not going to compete because I would be laughed at. But it's like, that's my long-winded answer. Why did I start networking? kind of the stuff I've been doing, for my, my ventures and all that in my business and my career today, but really to help others. I mean, it's just, I met you, Jeff, and
yeah,
it was, that's the whole idea. Here we are, we're doing a podcast today.
Right. Exactly.
I was gonna say too, like you being identified as a connector and also feeling of a connector, what a better way to create an event space and bring people together. I'm curious though, just to dive a little bit more onto that. It must have been, interesting to navigate. I'm sure you got buy-in pretty early on, but what did it look like starting out with this association and then growing that to what it is today, whether it's specific events or type of industries or personnel? What did that look like? And did you see, a big impact immediately?
So I was very lucky. So prior to 2013, I was going to New England Networkers, which was run by this gentleman, Dan Edmonds. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But back then, he showed me the ropes. Because I was going to events, I was helping him host the events, and then he's like, Jeff, I'm moving to Florida in 2014. And I'm like, oh wow, this is my opportunity to start my own group. He's like, let's start your own group. I'll be here for another year. Everything from events. There's a lot to running events. There's looking for venues, sponsors, vendors. Building grassroots, trying to grassroots build the group up. So because you want to have your own individual group. If you're scattered all over the place, you're not going to get the repeat visitors per se, right? And you're not going to build the clients that help each other out. And you start seeing the same faces, like maybe 50% of the same faces at the events that help others, and it kind of snowballs, right? But I have to give that testament to Dan. That's how I got started. I mean, I probably wouldn't have run that Mass Professional Networking if it wasn't for Dan.
What was the most valuable advice that he gave you?
Handle rejection. It's kind of weird in sales because you deal with venues. Venues can be tough sometimes. It's also keeping everyone interested at events, because I don't know about you, if you've ever gone to an event and sometimes you see people kind of cliquish or stand in the corner, and the challenge, the whole idea is to get folks to talk to each other and stress the importance of the second level connection.
Yeah.
Don't go to an event thinking, hey, I'm going to give out 20 business cards and I'm going to get 3 clients tonight. It's not going to happen that way.
Right.
And that's that. And a lot of times coaching others to do that, I would say it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but I would say it's a good challenge. But venues are tough though. Sometimes venues can be like, I'm very lucky to have a good group of venues today in Boston and in the suburbs. And now, like I said, I'm building down in the Providence area too. So
Absolutely.
Great places down there too. So
I have a quick question. Oh, go ahead, Amelia.
Oh, I was just curious, because you host all these events and you're bringing all these people together, I'm curious if when you are meeting, you're going to events, you're seeing people, if there's anything that you see people doing that you're like, ooh, I wouldn't do that. What are kind of your networking faux pas, so to speak?
Don't go to an event thinking it's dinner. That's one of the abuse. I've seen a few times some dude has a half a piece of pizza out of his mouth. And he's having and he reaches out and tries to shake your hand like, oh, excuse me. I don't think. But I really stress to folks, have dinner before you go to the event. There's going to be snacks there, but please don't that's a big one. And also the put your phone in your pocket. You're not there to do Instagram, you're there to meet people. So that's another big thing I've seen. Sometimes people are just in the corner like this and they're like, come on. Meet some people. Yeah.
That's actually, I know that's the thing I try to do is obviously you want to take your phone out to connect with people on LinkedIn, but you have to I actually put my phone in my purse where I can't feel it vibrate or ring just to make sure I keep it that distraction out. And if I look at my phone and there's an important email from a client, of course I'll answer it, but I'll answer it if it's important. But otherwise I try to get right back because it is easy to get lost in your phone and it's important to stay present. And I think in this day and age, sometimes that's harder than not sometimes.
Yeah. Another big tip is, when you're networking, focus on the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been somewhere. Imagine I'm talking to you, Taylor, right now, and I'm like looking at the next person over there. You're like, is Jeff really paying attention to me right now? That's another, you have to make sure you're engaged in the conversation that you're talking with the person you're talking to, and not think about the next person already, right? That's important.
I completely agree with you, and that's actually happened to me a couple of times where, I'll give a recent example. I was at a BizNow event where they do some really great ones, but there are some large BizNow events. I think I went to, it was like a Birdo sustainability for Boston, and it was great. It was hundreds of people. It was just a lot of people early in the morning, and to your point earlier, and I have a question on that, but the clickiness, right? You see people that of course, you want to say hello, good morning, connect. But it's not a good feeling if you're in a conversation. And I think a lot of people, to your point, might think, oh, they can't do anything for me. So we're just on to the next, which you never know that, right? We've all learned that people are more useful. And that shouldn't be necessarily the main reason why you're talking with them. You should get to know them, and, but you never know what they could do for you. But I wanted to touch back on the clicks, because you bring that up. And I'm curious if you've given any advice or structure your events so you mitigate that, because I have been to actually recently a handful of events where there is more of that clickiness, more of groups. And I will also see people on their phones, but it seems like they might not know someone. So when you incorporate someone not knowing someone with clicks, you have the phone users because they feel uncomfortable, and then you have people who are only in their circle. So long-winded question, but how do you, what's your advice, or how do you mitigate that with your own events?
So, in our Mass Professional Networking events, we usually have roving hosts. They kind of go around, make sure people are not on their phones and all that. But my biggest advice is walk into an event and meet somebody you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Meet a stranger. The whole idea for you to go to an event is to meet strangers, not to meet your friends.
I think
Right?
Yeah,
that was the best advice I've ever gotten, was just be nice and friendly. Like, who's ever judged someone for going up and just like saying hi and introducing themselves?
So the whole idea with an event, our networking events, everyone's there for the same reason, to meet people, right? To meet people they don't know. And then one of the reasons why I was so intrigued with networking back in 2007 when I first started was I noticed everyone's so positive and friendly and smiling. They're there for the same reason. They're there to meet others, to help others. And if you have that mindset going to an event, you're going to be very successful. The whole idea is to know, like, and trust, right? Know you, like you, and trust you.
That brings up another question for me, actually, just because you have been doing this for so long and you've had your networking groups for so long that you've been running. How has networking changed in the last 10 years? Especially, I feel like COVID definitely changed the way people network in some ways. So I'm curious to see if you have an opinion on the development of networking.
So I think it's like 2008, and I'm going back a few years, right? And today are very similar. Because of the job market. The job market is very difficult right now. Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there looking for new work. There's a lot. And I'm a recruiter. I had a really quick story. I did a quick presentation at an event. It wasn't my event. It was another event. And my idea was to meet hiring managers. And I had a line of people around the corner to meet me. And every single person was looking for new work. Every single one of them. So I think the market today, you have a lot more of a combination of folks looking for new opportunities and a lot of people going on their own and saying, you know what, I'm done with corporate America or whatever, and I want to start my own business, and I'm here to start meeting people, so I build my own network. I'm seeing a lot more of that now. You're not seeing the happy corporate person at a networking event, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, so that's a great point, is given that there's so many people right now that are out there networking because they feel like they have to, because they're either lost a job or they are worried they're about to lose a job, which is a tough situation to start networking in, right?
Yeah.
Because you need something from these people. So what's the advice you would give to somebody who is, maybe not super familiar with networking or just doesn't do it. Because I mean, we all know, like in corporate jobs, you don't have to network. Some people do, but you don't have to do as much. So if people are sort of in that position, what's the advice you give people who are job seekers in joining networking events?
So my first advice to them is do not go up to somebody and say, I need a job. or have a resume.
Yeah.
Or hand your paper resume, because we're in an electronic world, right? All I always, and I coach our candidates, when they're ready for an interview, is to be a doctor and look for somebody's pain, right? So talk to someone, talk about, ask pointed questions about what they do, or who they know, or let's say you're a marketing specialist, right? Ask questions about how you do marketing at your company. And then what could happen is the person says, we're not very good at Instagram, or we're B2C. And then you're offering a suggestion to them. Then all of a sudden they're looking at you like, wow, this person's pretty smart. Let's get oh wait, we have a role at our company.
Right.
So like you're almost like you're becoming a resource for them by accident. Yes. And you may get that interview or that job at the company, right? And then there's another thing with that is, go into an event. If you're looking for a new job, look at every other person. Think about their second level connection. You got to get them to know, like, and trust you. I use that a lot. And then, you know what? They're going to be more than happy to help refer you to somebody else. Like once you're connected to them on LinkedIn, ask for an introduction. If you like Jeff or Taylor or Billy, if you want to say, Jeff, I want to meet Frank or whoever, we know each other. I know I like you. I trust you. I'm going to introduce you to that person. So as a job seeker, two things: be the doctor,
right?
Look for the pain. It's almost like sales, right? We're all salespeople. And then the second thing is, remember, get them to know, like, and trust you. Build that relationship with the person you meet so they refer you to others. Because that's how you're going to get your job. Yeah. You're going to get your job through human interaction. I always stress that. Human interaction is really key in today's market to get a new gig or job.
We've talked about that on this podcast a bit.
That's how Amelia got her new job. I mean, she wasn't, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but someone just was, speaking with her and just saw what she brought to the table and was like, you know what? Here you go. I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, but I mean, you're the true example of how networking and being your brand can create a lot of open opportunities when you're not even looking.
Right. I wasn't looking. I was happy in my role, and I was like, if obviously I think everyone's always open to some regards. Like I was kind of in that level of, I'm not actively looking, but if something came across that was really good, I wouldn't be opposed to it. And in my current manager, my VP of sales now, she was looking to hire, and she was asking in her network. She knew me, and we were grabbing lunch, and a couple people in her network said, if I was hiring someone, I'd hire Amelia. And we sat down, and she drilled me with questions. I had a panic attack because I thought I word vomited on the table before I even got to ask her a question. And then she's like, yeah, so I'm actually hiring. And that's why I was asking you 1,000 questions, and you answered them all correctly. And what would it take for you to move over to supporting strategies? And now I'm happily over here.
Yeah. Which is incredible. And then I have another story too, to your point, Jeffrey, on the connections and knowing people. I knew someone was hiring. I connected someone else in my network who was looking to that person. The role and the person it just wasn't a perfect fit. So that person who they did not originally know introduced to someone else, and now they have a new role, right? Yeah. So it's just the power of networking. Yeah. But I like the diagnosis of be the doctor, find the pain, the trust. That, to be frank, paint that is sales right there. And everyone's a little bit of a salesperson, right? You kind of got to be. Yeah, you have to be. And especially with executive search, talent acquisition, recruiting, there's a lot in there. So I'm sure you've been able to utilize all of those skills that you have to have, intangible and tangible, for overall networking and in your own business.
Yeah, exactly. So one last tip is all right. So Amelia, you just got your job. You got your dream job. Don't stop networking.
Oh no, I mean that's how I got the job, and that's what my job relies on. It's how I do my business. I think, and we're talking about selling, and I mean, some people would argue that cold calling is dead. I mean, I think there's definitely a time and a place for it, but especially depending on your industry and the product you're selling, the need for networking never goes away. I mean, my business is 100% referral based. So I mean, I never stopped networking. I'd say I was a little slow in January, but I'm going to blame that on the weather and the cold.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that one, man.
There's definitely lulls in the year of networking, but people say your net worth is your network, which it's a little corny but at the same time, it is truly accurate. Like, I can't, before I left Insperity, I think the last year, every deal I sold was through a networking connection referral. So, and I think we talked about it like a couple weeks ago, but the power of a referral based sale versus a cold call, like you can make 100 cold calls, you might close a deal, like with a 1% chance. But if you get 100 referrals, chances are like 80% of those is going to close.
So I want to mention something, Amelia. January is actually one of the best months of the year to network.
Really? I am going to kick myself in the butt next year and make sure I do it then.
Hope for a warmer January this next year, but we had 3 events in January. We had one in Burlington, Providence, and Boston with Mass Professional, and they were one of our best events. We had over 100 people in Burlington.
Oh wow!
Which is insane. That's in the suburbs. I mean, Burlington's like that secret place.
I live in Woburn, so I love Burlington.
So what is it about January that makes it such a good month? Is it because nobody else is doing events, or like what's the
New Year's resolutions?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're sitting there having some champagne on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day and saying, "Yeah, I got to start networking."
Yeah.
What events are happening? They go on Eventbrite and check the event. They see.
That's
so you saw the highest numbers then in January?
January is usually our best month. January and September.
Interesting.
Okay.
And July is like I would say a wild card. It's weird, right in the middle of summer, but a lot of people take vacations and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to an event. I want to get away from my family." I don't know, but it's like they go to an event in January. But January is big. I'll see a little drop off now, going into March and April and May, and then it picks up in the summer again. And then there's another little peak in September, October timeframe.
So I will say, I resemble your point about New Year's resolutions, because one of my, I don't know, it was like a full-on resolution, but I was like, I'm going to try and go to at least one event every week. And so far, I've basically done that. Although I think last week I went to 3, so like it made up for 1 week that I didn't go to any. But on average, I've been hitting about 1 event a week, and it's just some of it's just just getting out there and doing it, and and getting in there. So I actually wanted to jump back to something we were talking about before that Taylor was asking about. This, you mentioned this idea of clicks and so forth. So I was recently at an event, and I walk up to a table with somebody that I know, but not well. I mean, met them once before, and it was like I had 6 heads. Like, what is this person doing? Breaking into this conversation. And so I'm fascinated right now. And at this point, I've been doing this long enough that I'm like, whatever. You don't want to talk to me? I'll just go talk to somebody else. There's a lot of on this room. I don't care. But I'd be interested in your take of, I've been thinking a lot of like, what's the best way to, when 2 people or 3 people are like deep in conversation and you're like, I want to, break into this conversation. Do you have any tips or advice? How do you break into the conversation?
You just nudge. You just like body check them. No, actually, this is another tip. When you're networking and talking to someone, have like a V approach where it's like it's inviting. So if a third person says, "Hey, can I join you?" It's easier instead of being face to face like this. Have like a V approach, because that's going to invite others to join. And I would say the 90% of the time, you're not going to get the cold shoulder in that case. So whenever
body language, right?
Yeah, it goes, it's like the psychology of body language right there.
I definitely, when I'm in a group already talking to someone, I try to do that. I try to be very aware of if there are other people trying to get into the group. It's just interesting because I see sometimes people trying to get into a group. Sometimes people are a little bit awkward. My new thing is I just walk up to people like, is it okay if I crash your conversation? Like that's how I just, you know, and people are just like, oh, sure, you know, whatever.
Course, yeah.
Yeah, no one's gonna say no. Get out of here, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. You know,
if I don't say that, then it's
I'd be brutally offended.
That would be honestly. I think I would just laugh and stay there if someone said that because I would think they were joking.
They probably are.
If
if someone was like, "No, get out of here," I would probably just laugh and be like, "Okay, like, what's your name?"
That's the thing about events, right? You have to have chip on your shoulder. Not everyone's gonna have the same personality.
Right.
Not everyone's gonna have the same mindset. So, you know, I love the V, and I think Jeff, for you saying, "Hey, can I crash the party?" That's great, right? And maybe people are like have a pause before reacting, but shaking it off and just, you know, maybe making a little joke. I think jokes tend to go a long way. They're not always funny, but I think people try to get the hint. So
I'm sure you tell some good jokes, Taylor.
Next time.
Next time. But you know, it goes back to earlier said that, you know, everyone's there for the same reason, should be there for the same reason, right? And should be entrepreneurs in general, especially entrepreneurs and salespeople, are very positive people, just generally.
Yeah.
I haven't met a cranky salesperson because they're probably not good if they're cranky. So they have to be a good person.
They won't last very long.
They won't last very long in the profession if they're cranky. So, you know, they're most of the time, like most of the majority of the time, they're people and be very apt to include you in conversations.
I think that's true. And every once in a while you run into people who are just like, they're having a little private conversation and you're like, whatever. I'll sometimes I'll just be like, talk to y'all later. You know, just walk away. I'm like, if I feel like I'm a third wheel, I'm like, I'll go someplace where I'm not a third wheel.
Yeah.
Again, all about body language, right? If they're like, you know, interest, maybe talking shop, you know, then it's like, okay, I'll wait a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, maybe this is probably worth a whole separate episode because we're coming up on time, but this interesting question of like when people actually start to do business at a networking event, I find that sort of like to me, it's like if somebody seems like somebody I want to talk, like, hey, let's connect on, you know, on Zoom, or let's do a coffee. I think that to some extent, when people start to be like, okay, let's, you know, let's make a deal right here, I think it creates a kind of a, you know, an aura of, you know, hey, okay, I guess I'm not part of this conversation or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's very rare though. I mean,
I agree. It's not.
It's people know. I mean, that's another networking tip I always say is, hey, if there's some interest there, just book a follow up, book the appointment right there. Get your phones out, check your calendars, book it. Exactly. Talk later, because you know you're there to meet people. You're not there to just, you know, you want to close deals. Everybody does, but so you don't want to do it there.
Build the relationship. If you see them again, right? Something that we talked about, all that. Now I know we're coming up on time, Jeff, but Jeffrey, I have one last question that I'm genuinely interested on. Yeah. You are part of so many things. Have your own company, executives, all of the things we were discussing. How do you find time and schedule out going to events? Now I know you have your own, but other ones as well. Because I think sometimes I've been asked that quite frequently as of recent of my schedule is just so full and maybe I have a family at home or I have other, you know, other things in life to do, but I want to be doing this. How can I do networking that can be added onto my plate and not be, you know, a huge, you know, mess of it all?
So the biggest thing is pick and choose the right events. I mean, I always say go to events where your clients are. You know, that's your first tip is go where you potentially could get new business. Again, you're not going there to build transactions, but you want to be introduced to the right people. And then the second thing is it's all about time management. I always say be productive, not busy. So if you're spending the time going, you know, whatever you're doing during the day or, you know, even for events is, you know, if you go to an event, make sure it's productive. How is it going to be productive? Right. So that way you leave there, you know, with that satisfaction, you just spent the right time. You know, if you're, let's say you're in real estate, you're not going to go to a conference on about surgeons, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to like pick and choose those are the right events.
Absolutely. Well, the time has flown by as promised. We are right up at a half an hour, so that's okay. We will keep going because we always like to go around the group and say, what is one cool event that you're going to in the next week or so? So, Jeff, maybe we can start with you. What's one thing that's coming up?
So I have to say, I have to little plug for my next Mass Professional Networking event with AMA Boston.
Yep.
We'll be at the Social in Newton, Mass on the 18th of February, 6 o'clock. Okay. Should be a great event. And I'll drop the link somewhere. MP Networking 021825.eventbrite.com. Does everyone write that down?
Yep.
I'll be there.
I'll provide it later. And that's a big one. I'm actually speaking tomorrow night at AMA Boston, it's a virtual marketing mingle. I will be talking about branding yourself in today's economy for about 5 minutes. And then there's going to be virtual networking after that. And then, of course, there's Venture Cafe. But I heard the weather's going to be a little nasty on Thursday. So we'll see what happens there. Every Thursday, Venture Cafe, Cambridge.
Awesome. Well, before I let either Taylor or Amelia go next, best place to reach you if people want to connect with you?
LinkedIn.
So here's
center of all activity.
Awesome. Yes, it is like the center of the world. But here's Jeff's LinkedIn on the screen. Amelia or Taylor, do you want to do yours next?
Yeah, I can go. I know we already talked about it, but I'm really excited to do the FEI event tomorrow night. So we're doing the music of business. So it's every year FEI has like one big blowout event, and this is going to be that event this year. So there's going to be a panel about the music and business. There's going to be a live band, and there's going to be tons of networking, and it's being hosted at Big Night Live. And I've never been to a networking event there. So I'm really excited to see the layout of it and just see how the event turns out, because it's something that is a little different than what we've done in the past. And I think it's but I'm really excited to see how it turns out.
That sounds fun. I like music too. So
yeah, you should come.
I'm going for the networking, but I might be going for the live music a little bit more than the networking.
I'm telling you.
And the whole Wicked Connected crew, including Stephen, who wasn't able to join us today, will be there. So we are looking forward to.
I know. I think this is the first time all four of us will be in the same networking event together. Yeah. We're missing. We've had a couple at the same event, but we're always missing one or two.
Yes, that's right. Taylor, you want to do next?
Yeah, so I am going to that. I also am coming back from a week away, so I have a lot of in-person lunches and coffees this week. But I have a Crew Women in Commercial Real Estate event tomorrow morning. And it is, I'm just looking at the title here because it's longer, but non-traditional opportunities for business growth in the new global economy. So there's been a lot of really interesting topics lately. There's always really great ones, but it's not always just around the real estate sector. So that'll be really great tomorrow afternoon, FEI. And then I have a small networking group that I'm a part of as well that I'll have a lunch on Wednesday. And then the beautiful in-person lunches and coffees that make my world go round. So that is me this week. What about you, Jeff?
So, I mean, I guess this is the danger of going last, but I am also going, obviously, to the FEI event, as I mentioned. And that's actually the only event that I'm going to this week. I've got a whole bunch of one-on-one meetings with folks, but next week I am definitely going to be at the AMA and Mass Professional Networkers event. So I will definitely be there. I am in Newton. It would be ridiculous if I didn't go. So I will definitely see you there. And I have one other event next week. I'm going to save for next week because I better, I need to keep something new and different for next week. But anyway, Jeff, so great to have you on. Great to hear your story. Great to hear about all the network you're doing. Thanks for joining us. And we will see everyone next week.
Yeah, thank you.
See you.
Looking forward to the event.
Thank you.